see you guys in the dark.
So this story had happened on the west coast of the United States around 11 years ago. I was a 23-year-old female living in my very first apartment. I was single, working part-time, and going to college, so I was more focused on getting my life together than dating. Valentine's Day was approaching, and of course I didn't have a special someone in my life at the time. So a coworker of mine thought it would be a good idea to hook me up with a single guy that she knew named Jack. Jack and I talked on the phone for a few days before meeting in person. When we eventually met, Jack brought flowers, candy, and he immediately told me how attracted he was to me, even saying that I'm his girl now. It struck me as really odd, especially seeing as how it was our first time meeting, but I thought he was really handsome. He was 6'1", I'm 5'3". He had a gorgeous smile and seemed really sweet, so I just brushed off the oddness. We hung out for a few weeks, and during that time, Jack started acting very strange and clingy. He was very quiet and liked to ask questions about me, and told me a lot about his personal life. But besides a simple hi, he basically ignored and never really spoke to any of my family or friends who came to visit often. He always wanted to occupy my time, wanted to know what I was doing all the time, and would get angry if I was too busy or had other plans. He wasn't physically abusive, but he was really possessive. He even told me he loved me a month after, but I had laughed it off thinking he was just joking around. One night, he actually got on his knees to propose to me. I told him we only had been knowing each other a few months, and we should wait until we're both ready. And besides, he didn't even have a ring. He said he was ready to get married as soon as possible. We can go to the courthouse now, and he'll buy me a ring later. No, thank you. If it's meant to be, then we'll get married when the time comes. The very next week, he gets back on his knees, proposing once again, still with no ring, and saying he was ready now. At this point, I started to freak out. Not only was he clingy, but he was moving way too fast for me. I mean, we had only been knowing each other for a few months at this point. I was still busy with work and school, so I told him maybe we should take a break from hanging out for a while. He got this really weird look on his face, got really quiet, but eventually started smiling and agreed with me that we should take a break. A few days of not hearing from him, I came home to find him sitting on my staircase. I asked him what he's doing there, and he just said, "Waiting for you." And then he smiled. After an awkward moment of silence, I told him he needed to go back home. He got up and left, but then he started to randomly stop by my place. If I was there, I pretended not to be. He would knock for about 30 minutes, leave for a few minutes, and then come back. He started waiting on my staircase for me to get home so much I had to hide at a neighbor's apartment and wait until he eventually left. He called my cell phone nonstop, and I just ignored him. After a couple of months of this, he just stopped all of a sudden. I was completely relieved, like he finally got the point. After 3 months of not hearing from him, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I answered it, and it was Jack. He wanted to know how I was doing and wanted to see me. He also said he told his mother about me, and she wanted to meet me too. I got really creeped out and upset. I told him no, lose my number, and stop calling me. I guess he heard the opposite because he started randomly knocking on my door once again. He knocked on my door a couple of times, and each time I had a friend or a family member tell him to leave and not come back each time. He smiled and then told them okay. The third time he came over was the last straw for me. I had my best friend tell him I wasn't there. I was, but I was just hiding. He asked her if he could wait for me outside of my apartment until I came back. She told him no, and then he tried to push his way in. My friend called my name, and I ran out to help her shut the door. Heart racing, I told him I was going to call the police if he didn't leave and never come back again. He mumbled something through the door, and then I could hear him talking down the stairs. I ended up not calling the police that night, but I regret that decision to this very day. Now jump forward about 6 months later. It was a bright sunny day, Saturday afternoon. Two of my younger sisters, 17 and 14, were visiting me. I was still laying in my bed because I had a major migraine. Since I lived alone, I had gotten used to leaving my bedroom door open so I could hear everything. I could hear them watching and talking about Vanilla Sky. I could also hear kids laughing and playing outside. Nothing weird whatsoever. I took more aspirin, then I dozed off again, but was awakened shortly by a loud bam noise. At first, I thought maybe a kid bounced a ball or something off my door. Then I heard it again, and my sister started yelling, "What the hell is that?" Just as I was about to get up and go see what was going on, bam! I heard screaming, and then a man's voice yelling, "Get the fuck up!" I started to panic, so this part might sound kind of messed up, but since I had no clue what was going on or who the person was, I slowly closed my door, blocked it with a dresser, sat on the floor in front of the dresser, and then I called 911. In my state of mind, I thought it would be better to get the police over ASAP instead of risking my life even further by running into an unknown situation. Maybe this intruder didn't know it was a third person there. Anyways, I told the operator someone had broken into my apartment. Sounded like he was threatening my sisters, and that the police needed to come really quickly. The operator asked me a lot of questions about how many or what the intruder looked like, but of course I couldn't say because I was still lying in bed when it started. While I'm speaking with the 911 operator, I could hear a guy's voice asking, "Where is your sister? She doesn't know what I had to do for her. I love her." I heard more screaming, and then I heard, "She's in the room." At this point, my heart had started beating triple time. I don't know why they told this person where I was. Maybe just out of pure terror. Or maybe it was because I did not come out of my room to check the situation. But next thing you know, my bedroom door was being kicked really hard. So hard I actually thought that I had started sliding across the floor. The intruder stopped kicking my door and says, "If you don't open the door right now, I'm killing everybody." I was so damn scared. Literally crying, begging, and asking the 911 operator where the police were at. The whole ordeal was about 5 minutes, but in a situation like this, time slows down, and it seems like it went on for hours. I guess the intruder must have heard me talking to the 911 operator, because all of a sudden he stopped and took off running out of my apartment. I was still on the call, crying with the door shut, and one of my sisters knocked, said it was okay to come out now because he is gone. I opened up my door and was like, "Who the hell is he?" They said Jack. I couldn't believe it. In broad daylight, Jack had kicked in my door with a sawed-off shotgun, threatened to kill my sisters and myself. The police ended up catching him about a week or so later. During this time, I found out through the police report that there was a previous incident that occurred with Jack a couple of weeks before my incident. The police were called because someone was shooting a gun in the air. When the police arrived, they found Jack holding the gun. They asked why, and Jack said because someone broke into his apartment, stole his weed, and cut the tip of his tongue. I'm not kidding about this. The police just issued him a ticket. Anyways, I actually helped catch him by giving one of his family members' address that I found in the phone book, and then they caught him headed to their house. He confessed right there, but he was arrested, and he pleaded not guilty. But he ended up taking a plea deal and only ended up serving 5 years. I moved to a different state after. An even scarier part is, I found out when he got released. He moved into a halfway house, literally right down the street from my old apartment, where he kicked in the door. 11 years has passed. I still don't feel completely safe. I feel at any moment I can run into him randomly, or hear my door being kicked in once again. I keep moving constantly. I change my number every single year. I carry pepper sprays and tasers with me everywhere I go. I never go to bed without checking if the doors and windows are locked tight. I still even put a chair under the doorknob before I go to sleep at night. So this took place over a few years in a small Ohio town. I went to a real small high school. It was all around pretty sheltered. I went on some dates, but never had a real boyfriend until Dave had come along. Dave was a popular senior. I was a junior, and many of his friends were dating my friends. Dave was a funny guy and a bit of a troublemaker, but he was very sweet to me. We hit it off and began dating. Dave lived with his foster dad, a man named Greg, whom he had lived with since he was 13 or so. Greg was not married, so it was just him and their dog. Greg worked as a counselor at an adolescent mental health center in town and was literally the kindest person I have ever met. At the time, I was interested in pursuing a similar field, so I really enjoyed spending time talking with Greg. At first, it was smooth sailing with Dave, but slowly things got worse. Dave confessed to me that he was very depressed and often thought about killing himself. I was shocked and upset. I wasn't sure how to help him. I told Greg about it, who assured me he would take care of things. He let me know that Dave had some mental health issues, and he had been suicidal before. I realized that could be a relationship red flag, but as it was my first boyfriend, and I had also gone through some depressive issues myself, I just felt obligated to help him through this time. I should add that Dave had previously told me a few very private stories about his abusive childhood, so overall, I just felt really bad for him. As time went on, we dated for about a year and a half. Dave became worse. He was verbally abusive and very sneaky. I was petrified of the dark, and he would delight in sneaking up and shutting all the lights off whenever we were in a windowless area. We lived a street apart, and at one point he began sneaking into my house at night and asking me to let him come sleep over. My dumb high school self did. I just continued to feel obligated to help this guy until one day I finally got the guts to cut things off. I told him it was over the day I graduated. I said I wanted to move on to a new stage of my life and all of that. He begged and begged, saying he would be better. I didn't buy it and basically told him I didn't want any type of contact with him. Of course, he threatened suicide over and over via text message, but I finally got the strength to just ignore it. I found out much later that Greg had caught Dave taking Greg's gun from the safe, but nothing tragic had happened. Now, this is where it gets real. I had moved to a town 25 minutes away to attend school. My roommate Jenny was a high school friend who happened to be dating a scumbag from our hometown who sold drugs. Since this dude was still in high school and couldn't drive, he didn't really come over, but she would go stay with him. She would come back and tell me that she saw Dave buying drugs from her boyfriend. And Dave would always ask about me all creepy like. She knew better than to tell him stuff, especially when he asked where our new place was. And thank goodness, because what happened next still gives me the chills. One April night, I get a call from my mom. She told me that I needed to get out of my apartment and go stay with a friend because Dave had just killed someone and was still on the loose. My mom happened to know the chief of police at the time. I asked what had happened, and my mom had told me the unthinkable. Greg had been found in the basement freezer. Dave beat him to death, then escaped before anyone discovered the body. I could hardly believe the gruesome news, and immediately left my apartment. The next afternoon, I received the news that Dave had been caught. They found him in a rundown motel a few miles from my apartment. I never knew if Dave was coming for me, but my gut tells me he was. If the dude was on a killing spree, I'd no doubt be his second target. I wanted so badly to know the truth. I went to a visitation while he was still in the county jail. One of those glass ones with the phone sort of thing. But once I got there, I just broke down. I couldn't pick up the phone, and plus there were others there to talk to him. I never did get the chance to ask him. But I'll never forget, as the officer had led him back to his cell, he turned around one last time, looked me dead in the eye. Still gives me shivers to this day.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos, and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.